The cold wind of Kepler 442b cut through Jake Morrison's suit as he stood on the ridge overlooking the ancient ruins. Below him stretched a massive structure made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. His breath fogged the inside of his helmet as he watched his team set up equipment around the entrance. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings from inside," called out Dr. Lisa Carter over the radio. She was their best expert on old alien stuff, and if she sounded worried, Jake paid attention. Jake walked down the rocky slope toward the entrance. The structure was huge, bigger than anything they had found on other worlds. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to shift and move when he wasn't looking directly at them. "What kind of readings?" Jake asked as he joined Lisa near a metal scanner. "The building is over 3 million years old, but there's still power running through it." "And Jake," Lisa paused and looked at him with concern. "There's something alive down there." The team had been exploring dead worlds for 5 years now. They usually found old buildings, broken machines, and sometimes bones, but never anything still alive after so long. "How deep?" Jake asked. "About 2 miles straight down. The life signs are weak but steady, like someone sleeping." Jake looked at the dark entrance. Every smart part of his brain told him to be careful. But he had always been curious about things that didn't make sense. That's what made him good at his job. "Get the team ready. We're going in." The tunnels inside were wide enough for their equipment but felt tight anyway. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that came from nowhere Jake could see. Their boots echoed in the silence as they walked deeper into the structure. After an hour of walking, they found the chamber. It was a perfect circle cut into the rock, about 50 feet across. In the center stood a tall crystal box that reached from floor to ceiling. And inside the crystal box was a woman. She looked human, which was impossible. Humans had only been traveling to other worlds for a few hundred years. This place was millions of years old, but there she was, floating in some kind of clear liquid, wearing long robes that moved like they were underwater. The strangest thing was her eyes. They were covered by silver bands that wrapped around her head like a blindfold. The bands pulsed with soft light, and Jake could hear a low humming sound coming from them. "My God," whispered Lisa. "She's beautiful." The woman did look beautiful, but there was something else about her that made Jake's chest feel tight. She looked sad even while sleeping, like she had seen terrible things. Around the crystal box, the walls were covered in writing. Not the shifting symbols from outside, but clear words in dozens of languages. Lisa pulled out her translator and started working. "Captain, you need to hear this," Lisa said after a few minutes. "These aren't warnings about the building or the planet. They're warnings about her." "What do they say?" Lisa read from her screen. "The seer must not see. The truth must not wake. She who witnessed the end must remain bound. The final secret sleeps with her." Jake walked around the crystal box, studying the sleeping woman. "How long has she been here?" "According to this chronometer built into the wall, exactly 200 years. 200 years? That's nothing compared to how old this place is. I know. It's like someone put her here recently, but used very old technology to do it." The rest of Jake's team set up their equipment around the chamber. But strange things started happening right away. Their computers would stop working for no reason. The temperature in the room kept changing, and some of the crew said they could hear voices whispering in languages they didn't know. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the woman in the crystal box. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. There was something familiar about her, like he had met her somewhere before. But that was impossible. The next day, more strange things happened. Tony, one of their engineers, said he had a nightmare about watching stars explode. Maria, their pilot, woke up screaming about something she called the Watchers in the Dark. Even Lisa, who never got scared, looked nervous. "Maybe we should leave," suggested Tony during their morning meeting. "This place doesn't feel right," but Jake couldn't leave. The woman in the crystal box was the most important discovery humans had ever made. She was proof that people like them had been traveling between worlds long before anyone thought possible. "We stay," Jake decided, "but everyone stays together. No one goes anywhere alone." That afternoon, while Lisa worked on translating more of the wall writings, Jake found himself standing in front of the crystal box again. The woman's chest rose and fell slowly. Her lips moved sometimes like she was trying to speak. "Who are you?" Jake whispered. As if she heard him, the woman's breathing got faster. The silver bands around her eyes grew brighter. Jake stepped closer and put his hand on the crystal. The moment his skin touched the surface, images flashed through his mind. He saw Earth, but not the Earth he knew. This Earth had huge cities that floated in the sky. People flew between stars like they were walking to the next town. Technology that seemed like magic. Then he saw darkness, something vast and terrible coming toward the bright human worlds. People running, screaming, dying. The floating cities falling from the sky. Everything humans had built turning to dust. Jake pulled his hand away from the crystal, breathing hard. The woman's eyes were moving back and forth under the silver bands like she was dreaming. "Lisa," Jake called. "I need to know what else those walls say. Everything." Lisa worked through the night, translating every symbol she could find. What she discovered made her hands shake. "Jake, this woman isn't just human. She's from Earth. Her name is Elena Voss, and according to this, she can see things that haven't happened yet. She can see across time and space to other worlds, other realities. That's impossible. The writing says she saw something terrible coming for humanity, something that would destroy everything we built. So she came here and asked to be put in this box with those bands over her eyes so she couldn't see anymore." Jake looked at the sleeping woman with new understanding. She hadn't been put here as a prisoner. She had chosen this. She had chosen to sleep rather than watch humanity die. "There's more," Lisa said quietly. "The writing says the bands can be removed. But whoever removes them will see what she saw. They'll know the truth about what's coming." Jake stared at the silver bands pulsing with light around Elena's eyes. Humanity's greatest discovery was also its greatest danger. The question was, did he have the courage to learn the truth no matter how terrible it might be? Jake couldn't eat breakfast the next morning. His mind kept going back to Elena in her crystal prison. The images he had seen when he touched the surface felt more real than the room around him. "Captain, I found something else," Lisa said as she joined him at their small table. "The security system for this place is still working. It's been scanning all of us since we got here." "Scanning for what?" "I think it's looking for someone specific. Someone the system will recognize and let into the crystal chamber." Jake looked up from his untouched food. "Let in? The chamber isn't locked. The outer part isn't, but there's another barrier around the crystal box itself. I can see it on our scanners now. It's some kind of energy field that only turns off for the right person." After breakfast, Jake walked back to the chamber alone. His team was busy working on other parts of the building, but Jake felt pulled toward Elena like metal toward a magnet. When he entered the circular room, something was different. The crystal box was glowing brighter than before. Elena's breathing was faster and her head moved slightly from side to side. Jake walked closer. As his feet crossed the center of the room, he heard a soft beeping sound. The energy barrier that Lisa had detected suddenly became visible as a shimmering wall of light around the crystal box. Then it turned off. The barrier simply vanished, and Jake could walk right up to Elena's crystal prison. She was so close now he could see the details of her face. She looked young, maybe 30. But there were lines around her eyes like someone who had worried about things for a very long time. The silver bands around her eyes were not just metal, they were alive somehow, pulsing with light that matched her heartbeat. Jake could see tiny symbols moving across their surface like words being written and erased over and over. "Please," Elena whispered. Jake jumped back. Her voice was so quiet he almost missed it. "Please," she said again. "You don't understand what you'll unleash." Her lips barely moved, but Jake heard every word clearly. "Who are you talking to?" Jake asked. "The one who came to wake me. The one the system chose." Elena's voice grew a little stronger. "I can feel your mind touching mine. You saw the visions when you touched my prison. I saw Earth, I saw cities in the sky, and then I saw them falling. You saw one possible future, but there are so many more, and most of them are worse." Elena's head turned slightly toward Jake's voice. "Please leave me here. Let me sleep. I can't do that. You're human from Earth. Do you know how amazing that is? Humans have been looking for others like us in space for hundreds of years." Elena's laugh was soft and sad. "Humans have been in space much longer than your people remember. This isn't the first time we've reached the stars, and what do you mean? The silver bands don't just cover my eyes. They hold back the memories, the knowledge of what I've seen across time and space. If you remove them, you'll know the truth about humanity, about the cycle we're trapped in." Jake found the control panel built into the base of the crystal box. The symbols on it were starting to make sense, like his brain was learning to read them just by looking. "What cycle?" Jake asked as he studied the controls. We rise, we reach the stars, we grow too powerful, and then we fall, over and over across thousands of years. Your people, your Earth, your colonies, you're just the latest chapter in a very long story. Jake's finger hovered over what looked like the release switch for Elena's crystal prison. How many times? I've lost count. Maybe 10, maybe 20. Each time humanity builds a great civilization among the stars. Each time something destroys it and sends the survivors back to one world to start over. What destroys it? Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was full of fear. They call themselves the Shepherds. They watch over the universe and decide which species are allowed to grow and which must be stopped. Humans always grow too far, too fast. We ask too many questions, we refuse to accept limits. We change things that the Shepherds think should stay the same. Jake's hand shook as he reached for the release switch. So they kill us? They reset us. They destroy our technology, scatter our people, make us forget what we learned. Then they leave a few groups on safe worlds to start the whole process again. And you've seen this happen before? I've seen it happen to us. I've seen it about to happen again. That's why I asked to be put here in this sleeping prison. I couldn't bear to watch humanity die another time. Jake looked at the beautiful woman floating in the crystal box. Her silver blindfold pulsed faster now, like a heart beating with fear. But if you know it's coming, we can prepare. We can fight back. With what? Every previous human civilization thought the same thing. They all had weapons and ships and technology far beyond what your people have now. It didn't matter. The Shepherds exist in dimensions we can barely understand. They have power over reality itself. Jake's finger touched the release switch. So we just give up? We just accept that humanity will never be allowed to grow beyond what these Shepherds decide? Jake. Elena spoke his name even though he had never told her what it was. You're brave and your curiosity is exactly what makes humans special. But some doors should never be opened. Some truths are too dangerous to know. How do you know my name? When you touched my prison, our minds connected. I can see pieces of your memories, your thoughts. I can see the kind of man you are. You're exactly the type of person who would remove these bands no matter what I say. Jake smiled despite his fear. You're right. Then know this, once you free me, there's no going back. You'll see what I've seen, know what I know, and the Shepherds will sense that someone else has awakened to the truth. They'll come sooner than they planned. How much sooner? Months instead of years. Jake thought about his crew, about the human colonies spread across dozens of worlds, about Earth with its billions of people. All of them living normal lives, not knowing that something vast and terrible was coming to destroy everything they had built. Will freeing you give us a chance to fight? Elena was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke in a voice so soft Jake had to strain to hear her. Maybe. I've seen so many possible futures, but there's one that's different from the others. One where humanity doesn't just survive the next reset, but breaks free from the cycle completely. But the path to that future is narrow and dark, and I can't see if we're strong enough to walk it. Jake's finger pressed down on the release switch. Then we'll find out together. The crystal box began to drain. Helena's body slowly descended as the liquid around her disappeared. The silver bands around her eyes grew brighter and brighter until Jake had to look away. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, the band shattered and fell away from Elena's face. Jake looked back and immediately wished he hadn't. Elena's eyes weren't human anymore. They were like looking into deep space itself, full of swirling galaxies and nebulae. When she looked at him, Jake felt like she was seeing not just him, but every possible version of him across all of time and space. Hello? Jake Morrison, Elena said as she stepped out of the broken crystal box. Now you're going to learn what it really means to be human. The moment Elena's cosmic eyes met his, Jake's world exploded. Reality peeled away like old paint, and suddenly Jake wasn't standing in the stone chamber anymore. He was floating in space, but not the empty black space he knew. This space was full of layers, like looking through 100 sheets of colored glass all stacked on top of each other. In each layer, Jake could see different versions of the same thing. Different versions of Earth, different versions of human colonies, different versions of himself. Some layers showed worlds where humans had never left their home planet. Others showed vast empires spanning entire galaxies. This is how I see. Elena's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Every possibility, every timeline, every choice that leads to every possible future. Jake tried to speak but had no voice in this strange space between realities. Watch, Elena said. Let me show you the truth about humanity. The layers shifted and Jake saw Earth as it had been thousands of years ago. But this wasn't the primitive Earth from history books. This Earth had cities that floated among the clouds, connected by bridges of light. Humans flew between the stars in ships that moved faster than light itself. The first human empire, Elena explained. They discovered how to fold space, how to step between dimensions, how to create matter from pure energy. They thought they had become gods. Jake watched as the advanced humans spread across the galaxy, building wonders on 1,000 worlds. They created artificial planets, tamed black holes for power, and even began experimenting with creating new universes. But they grew too proud, too powerful. Elena's voice grew sad. They started to change the basic rules of reality itself. They threatened the balance that keeps all existence stable. Suddenly the scene changed. Vast shapes moved through the space between dimensions. Creatures made of pure energy and thought. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time, like angels made of starlight and mathematics. The shepherds, Elena said. They've existed since the universe began. Their job is to make sure no species grows so powerful that they destroy everything else. Jake watched in horror as the shepherds moved through human space. They didn't attack with weapons or armies. Instead, they simply changed things. Technology stopped working. People forgot how to build the machines that had taken them to the stars. Entire cities just stopped existing, as if they had never been built at all. In just a few years, the mighty human empire crumbled. The survivors were scattered to primitive worlds, their memories wiped clean. They started over with nothing but fire and simple tools. How many times? Jake finally managed to ask. I've counted at least 12 complete cycles, Elena replied. But there might have been more before I learned to see across time. The visions continued. Jake saw the rise and fall of human civilization over and over. Each time humanity clawed their way back to the stars through curiosity, determination, and refusal to accept limits. Each time they grew powerful enough to threaten the cosmic balance. And each time the shepherds reset everything. But we keep coming back, Jake realized. Every time they knock us down, we get back up. Yes, that's what makes humans special. Most species, when the shepherds reset them, never recover. They accept their new limitations and stay on their small worlds forever. But humans always reach for the stars again. Elena showed him the pattern more clearly. With each cycle, humanity came back a little stronger, a little smarter, a little more prepared. They were learning, even without conscious memory of what had happened before. Your current civilization is the most advanced yet, Elena said. You've spread farther, grown faster, and discovered more than any previous version of humanity. But that also means the next reset will be the worst one yet. When? Jake asked. Soon. The shepherds have already noticed that human technology is approaching dangerous levels again. They're preparing to act. Jake saw glimpses of the future Elena feared. Human colonies across hundreds of worlds simply going dark. Spaceships falling out of hyperspace, their crews forgetting how to fly them. The great cities of Earth becoming ghost towns as people forgot how to maintain the technology that kept them running. But there's something else, Elena said, and her cosmic voice carried a hint of hope. This time is different. This time, some humans have learned to hide their true progress from the shepherds. They've built secret facilities, hidden technologies, prepared for what's coming. Jake saw flashes of underground bunkers on dozens of worlds, filled with sleeping humans and preserved technology. Scientists working in secret, trying to find ways to fight beings that existed beyond normal reality. People like you have been having dreams, Elena continued. Dreams that led them to places like this. Dreams that made them ask questions and look for answers. The human mind is learning to retain memories across the resets even when the shepherds try to wipe them clean. Is that why your facility recognized me? Because I'm part of some plan from a previous cycle? Partly, but also because you're exactly the kind of human who might be able to break the cycle. Curious enough to seek truth no matter the cost. Brave enough to act when others would hide. Stubborn enough to keep fighting even when victory seems impossible. The visions shifted again, showing Jake something that made his heart race. He saw human ships not fleeing from the shepherds but flying toward them. He saw humans not cowering on one world but standing together across 1,000 worlds. He saw Elena herself no longer hiding in a crystal prison, but leading humanity into battle against forces that had controlled their destiny for millennia. This is the future I can't quite see clearly, Elena said. The one narrow path where humanity doesn't just survive but grows beyond the shepherd's ability to control. But reaching it will require sacrifices that I'm not sure our people are ready to make. What kind of sacrifices? Some humans will have to accept cosmic sight like mine. They'll have to carry the burden of seeing all possible futures, all possible failures. Others will have to give up normal human life and become something new, something that can fight the shepherds on their own level. Jake felt the weight of the choice before him. He could ask Elena to put the blindfold back on, pretend he had never seen these visions and let humanity face its fate unprepared. Or he could accept the terrible knowledge and try to guide his people toward that narrow path to freedom. If we fight, Jake asked, what are our chances of winning? Elena's cosmic eyes swirled with calculations across infinite timelines. If we do nothing, our chances are 0. Humanity will be reset again, and this time the shepherds might scatter us so far that we never find each other again. And if we fight, I can see millions of possible outcomes. In most of them we lose badly and the reset comes even sooner. But in some— Elena paused, her strange eyes focusing on distant possibilities. In some, we don't just win. We become something the universe has never seen before, a species that broke free from its shepherds and chose its own destiny among the stars. The visions began to fade, and Jake found himself back in the stone chamber. Elena stood before him, no longer the sleeping beauty in crystal, but a woman whose eyes held the weight of cosmic truth. So, Elena said in her normal voice, now you know what I know. Now you have to choose what humanity becomes next. Jake looked at her, then at the broken remains of her crystal prison. How long do we have before they come? 6 months, maybe less. The moment I opened my cosmic sight again, the shepherds felt it. They're already moving. Jake thought about his crew, his ship, the billions of humans across the galaxy who had no idea what was coming. Then we better get started, he said. Elena smiled, and for just a moment her cosmic eyes looked almost human again. I was hoping you would say that. Jake collapsed to his knees as the last of the cosmic visions faded from his mind. His body felt like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. When he tried to stand, his legs shook and his vision blurred. Elena knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Where she touched him, some of the pain went away. I'm sorry, she said. The human mind isn't meant to see across all of time and space. The knowledge leaves scars. How do you stand it? Jake gasped, looking into her galaxy-filled eyes. Seeing all those possibilities, all those futures where we fail? I've had 200 years to get used to it. And I learned to focus on the futures where we win, even if they seem impossible. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the chamber as Jake's crew rushed in. They had heard him cry out when the visions began. Captain, Lisa shouted as she ran to his side. But when she saw Elena standing free of her crystal prison, she stopped dead. My God, her eyes! The rest of the crew gathered around them, staring at Elena in amazement and fear. Tony, their engineer, actually took a step backward. Those aren't human eyes, he whispered. They are, Elena said calmly. They're what human eyes become when they learn to see the truth about reality. And soon some of you will have to choose if you want to see it too. What happened to the captain? Asked Maria, their pilot. He looks like he's been sick for weeks. Elena helped Jake stand on his unsteady legs. He learned what I learned long ago, that humanity is trapped in a cycle of rise and fall, controlled by beings that exist beyond our normal reality, and that cycle is about to begin again. Over the next hour, Elena explained everything to Jake's crew. She told them about the shepherds, about the previous human civilizations, about the resets that had destroyed humanity's progress again and again. She spoke in simple words, but the truth was so huge that some of the crew couldn't accept it. That's impossible, said Tony. We would remember if humanity had been to the stars before. There would be evidence. There is evidence, Elena replied. It's all around you. This facility was built by humans from a previous cycle. The technology that your people call ancient alien artifacts. Most of it was made by previous versions of human civilization. Lisa, who had spent years studying those artifacts, stared at Elena with growing understanding. The energy patterns, Lisa whispered. The way the technology responds to human DNA. I always wondered why alien tech seemed designed for us. Because it was designed for us. By us, Elena said. Each cycle, the humans who see the reset coming try to leave messages and tools for the next generation. Hidden facilities like this one scattered across the galaxy. Jake, feeling stronger now, sat down on a piece of broken stone from Elena's crystal prison. How many facilities are there? He asked. Elena's eyes swirled as she looked across dimensions. 7 that I can see clearly. Each one contains sleeping humans from previous cycles, technology that was hidden from the shepherds, and pieces of knowledge about how to fight them. Sleeping humans? Maria asked. You mean there are others like you? Yes. Scientists, warriors, leaders who chose to sleep through the dark ages between cycles, waiting for the time when humanity would be strong enough to fight back. Jake felt a spark of hope. So we're not alone in this. No, but Jake, you need to understand what we're asking of humanity. If we try to break the cycle, we're not just risking another reset, we're risking the complete destruction of our species. The shepherds have never faced serious resistance before. We don't know how they'll react. The crew was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Tony spoke up. What if we just try to hide? Keep our technology secret? Don't push too far, don't attract their attention? Elena shook her head sadly. That was tried in at least 3 previous cycles. It doesn't work. The shepherds don't judge us by what we do. They judge us by what we could do. And humans always have the potential to grow beyond limits. That's what makes us dangerous to their idea of cosmic balance. So we fight or we die, Jake said. We fight or we stay trapped forever, Elena corrected. The shepherds won't destroy humanity completely. We're too useful as an experiment. They'll just keep resetting us over and over, trying to find a way to make us accept limits. Lisa looked up from her scanner, which she had been using to examine Elena. Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from her that match the most advanced technology we've ever found. If she's telling the truth about these other facilities, we might actually have a chance, Jake finished. Elena nodded, but only if we can unite all the human colonies. Only if we can convince billions of people to accept a truth that sounds like madness. And only if we can do it all in 6 months. How do we start? Asked Maria. With the other facilities, Elena said. We need to wake the sleepers and gather their knowledge. But Jake, I need you to understand something. The moment we start this, there's no going back. The shepherds will sense the awakening of the sleepers. They'll know we're preparing to resist. Jake stood up, his body finally feeling normal again. He looked at each member of his crew, seeing the fear and determination in their faces. What do you all think? He asked them. Do we try to fight for humanity's freedom? Or do we walk away and let things happen as they always have? Tony was the first to answer. I've got kids back on Earth. I want them to have a future that's not controlled by some cosmic shepherds. I'm in, said Lisa. I've spent my whole career studying the ruins of dead civilizations. I'd like to help build a living one for once, Maria nodded. Someone needs to pilot the ship to these other facilities. Might as well be me. Jake felt proud of his crew. Faced with impossible odds and cosmic forces beyond their understanding, they were still willing to fight. Elena, Jake said, what do we need to do first? We start with the closest facility. It's 3 days away by your ship. But Jake, I need to warn you about something. The sleepers in these facilities aren't like me. I chose to keep most of my humanity when I accepted cosmic sight. They chose differently. What do you mean? They gave up their human emotions, their human limitations, their human weaknesses. They became something more like living computers designed only to fight the shepherds. They'll help us, but they might not understand why we want to save humanity as it is, instead of transforming it into something more efficient. Jake thought about that. Will we have to become like them to win? Elena's cosmic eyes grew sad. Some of us will. The shepherds exist partially outside of normal reality. To fight them, some humans will have to learn to exist there too. And humans can't go to those places and remain completely human. But if we win, if we break the cycle, will humanity be free to choose its own future? Yes, free to grow as far as we want, to become whatever we choose to become. Free to make our own mistakes and find our own solutions. Free to be human without anyone else deciding what that means. Jake looked around the ancient chamber, at the broken crystal that had held Elena prisoner for 2 centuries, at his crew who had just agreed to fight impossible odds for an uncertain victory. Then let's go wake up some warriors, he said. Elena smiled, and her cosmic eyes burned brighter. Jake Morrison, she said, you're about to learn why the shepherds have never been able to break the human spirit. No matter how many times they knock us down, we always get back up. And this time, we're going to get back up together. So, he said to Elena, what do we do now? Elena's cosmic eyes had changed again. They still held the swirling galaxies of expanded sight, but now they also held something very human. Joy. Now we do what humans have always done, she said. We explore. We learn. We grow. We reach for the stars and see how far we can go. And if we make mistakes along the way, then we fix them and keep going. Because we're human, and